Fox News alert, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Russia hoax some 7-8 years ago. Devin, it's great to have you this morning. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Maria.
I want to get your expectation of more charges to come against Jim Comey and more of his colleagues who worked on the Russia collusion story, pushed it through across the world. What are you expecting?
Look, I'm expecting a full investigation. If you look at the transparency that's been brought by the intelligence agencies under Trump, unprecedented level of transparency where we're now finally getting out documents that the American people had never seen. So I think you're beginning to see real clairvoyance on what happened between 2016 all the way to the Mar-a-Lago raid. And I think that's where, culminating with the Mar-a-Lago raid, is where I think I really still have a lot of questions of documents that really need to get out there. And I think an investigation needs to kind of start there and go back, because we know for sure what happened in 2016 that Comey was well aware of, is that this was all, the whole Russia hoax was all designed to get Trump because they were worried about her emails coming public back in 2016 before the election. So yeah. I think we have real clairvoyance there, Maria. You've covered on your show for many, many years. Where we still are missing information is, how was Jack Smith appointed to go after Trump in 22? Who decided to raid Mar-a-Lago? What documents were they looking for? These are all the questions that still remain to be answered, and I think where the investigators need to start from there and go back.
What is different about grand conspiracy? What does grand conspiracy tell us if, in fact, they are able to put the puzzle together that, yes, this has been a conspiracy since 2015?
Well, I think you just have to answer yourself the common sense question is was it a conspiracy or not? And clearly, unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, this has been a conspiracy to weaponize the U.S. intelligence agencies against the most popular Republican since Ronald Reagan, and that is President Trump. He became very popular in 2016, was a popular president, remains popular, was reelected president. It was all designed to target and take down one of your political enemies, so much so that they actually raided his home. A private home of a former president at that time. I mean, these are not things that allow a republic to be in a situation where it can withstand the long run if you have intelligence agencies that are effectively working with the fake news, working with nonprofits, all to benefit one political party. And that's what you've had. So it was a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy. And so whether or not you can make those charges, I'm not a lawyer, never been a prosecutor, but I've done a lot of these investigations. And to me, really what matters is the court of public opinion. What matters are the statutes and law. And I would, from my vantage point, it's pretty clear that there was conspiracy on a number of fronts. Most importantly, I think lying and misleading, I think that's a key word, misleading Congress and other investigations. As you know, there were, some 5 different investigations that occurred over the last 7 years as it relates to the Russia hoax, Ukraine impeachment hoax, and all the other hoaxes that did what? Targeted President Trump and his family.
And I talked with you throughout this 10-year period over and over again, and I remember many years ago you would say, we've asked them for these documents, we've asked them for that document, and they sat on it and waited and did not give you the documents as chairman of the Intelligence Committee or ranking member as the Intelligence Committee. You demanded these documents. Tell us how specifically Jim Comey and others may have misled you and the Congress.
Yeah.
I get it now. Just so you'll know, I recorded this twice. The first time I deleted it because there was a few audio issues, but I get it. They're trying to determine and lay out the case for what level of conspiracy this is. That's why they're framing it as a grand conspiracy. So you have standard conspiracy according to law, which is we have general conspiracy, which is US 18 USC 371, and that's penalty up to 5 years in prison and fines. Then you have seditious conspiracy, 18 USC 2384, which is up to 20 years in federal prison and fines. Then there's prison and fines. And then there's treason, which is U.S. Constitutional Article 3, 18 USC 2381, which is, well, death and at least 5 years in prison plus fines and disqualification from holding U.S. office. And so if they can lay out the case for seditious conspiracy and tie everyone into it that was connected to each other, then not only can people go to prison, but there can be a slew of people who will never have an opportunity to run for office again. I was wondering why this was being released this way and what he was saying, why he was rolling. And you notice that he's being kind of cautious on how he says things, and it just wasn't adding up. But now it makes all the sense in the world. So he's coming out signaling to everybody saying, hey, listen, we got you on this. And he says, oh, it's a at least it's a conspiracy. We know it's a conspiracy. So under just conspiracy, we're talking about the basic level, which is a general conspiracy. That's 18 USC 371. Man, you're talking about at least up to 5 years in prison. They're pushing forward to get the information. And as they get all the information declassified, which we know that Tulsi Gabbard declassified a lot of the information. So on the inside, they already know what this is because Tulsi declassified it. So the issue boils out to how do you prepare the American people for what's to come? And unfortunately, American people are not educated. This is the problem I have with the messaging that comes out of the Republican Party. It'd have been better if Devin Nunes says, well, we know it's a conspiracy. And American people need to understand conspiracy and gave the statutes and the codes and then said, this is the level that we're thinking that where it is right now, but this is the level that it could get to if the rest of this information is disclosed. But Tulsi Gabbard released everything and declassified enough to prove that the Russian collusion was a hoax. I haven't seen everything that Tulsi Gabbard declassified, I'll be honest with you. But we're at a point where we're trying to determine, I think we're at a point where they're trying to get the public mentally aware and prepared for what's going on behind the scenes. And it makes sense because now when you go into the regular news, you see Antifa going crazy in the streets and you see where the deep state has moved forward with literally trying to kill and attack police officers and start the race war. The only reason why they would go this far is if they know they've been caught and they have nothing to lose. Which, again, goes back to what I was saying, the realization that we saw in Alex Jones's face when they started to take him out. And it just quantifies what I've been saying, which is we're in a dangerous, probably the most dangerous time in the history of the United States of America. Yeah, when you come to this realization, you're in the most dangerous time ever in the history of America. Yeah, we're there. We are there. Yep.
Yeah, well, I can say this, is that those days are over, right? Now the president has made me chair of his intelligence board. We are working to help declassify where we can all the information that you now are seeing come out. Where I think where it's pretty clear is let's talk about two interesting dates, Maria. One was in August of 2016. In the Obama White House with Biden and a bunch of other cast of characters there, including Comey, including Brennan, where they are told by Brennan that, hey, there's a hoax going on. That's my word. That basically they're looking, the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC are looking to frame President Trump, or at that time, candidate Trump, with this Clinton email scandal. If and when these emails come out, they wanted to make it look like it was the Trump campaign working with Putin. They knew that in August of 16. Now, how is it possible that all of these cast of characters that were interviewed by multiple, not only the House Intelligence Committee, but also in the Senate and Horowitz and all the way to Durham, they just had amnesia, just forgot about this. They all those years went by and they don't remember that this was a cover-up for the Hillary Clinton email campaign? Nonsense. We know that's not true. They had to have known it. So what's the other important date? The other important date is in August, ironically, almost 6 years to the day, August of 2022, where they raid Mar-a-Lago. Many of the same people were involved in that. Not Comey, because he had been fired, but others who had been in the first Obama term all the way through were then put into the Biden term. I mean, people like Lisa Monaco, who was the Deputy Attorney General. I find it hard to believe that she was not behind and had knowledge about what happened at the raid of Mar-a-Lago, because I believe that Garland, although maybe he knew about it after the fact, but if you remember, he didn't seem to know much, and they didn't find what they were looking for because it took him 3 days after this magnificent raid with all the cameras there that clearly were tipped off about this Mar-a-Lago raid happening on President Trump. Miraculously, they didn't find anything, and it took Garland 3 days before he came out and made a statement.
Wow. And Lisa Monaco got a big job now. She's the president of global affairs at Microsoft, which I reported first. Look, I've got the majority staff report right here on the intelligence community assessment of the Russia influence campaign targeting the 2016 election. You believe that was one of the things they were looking for when they raided Mar-a-Lago, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's right, because that was supposed to be declassified. We asked President Trump to declassify that in 2020. We were told that it was declassified. We thought that that information was going to be at the archives, like all the information should. But then when we asked the archives about it and other people asked the archives for it, it wasn't there. So it's just, and that document's very damaging. It's a 40-page report that House Republicans worked on for a long time. Not only my committee and now now the current chairman Rick Crawford was able to get that information out. It's a very damning report that showed that Russia didn't think that Trump was going to win, which I think we all know. Once again, just common sense in 2016. Why would the Russians be helping someone that they didn't think was going to win?
Wow. So they raided his house looking for the report. Wow. Wow. They raided his house looking for the evidence against them. Wow. And so the question is, where was this evidence this whole time? Boy, you talking about some spy games being played out here in these streets. You talking about some spy games being played out here in these streets. Boy, we in a dangerous, dangerous time. Dangerous, dangerous time. And that explains everything you see going on with Antifa United. They'll never be divided. Antifa United will never be the violence.